She has been the Woman Aviator of the Year. She's probably the most important lady aviator in the United States of America and the Western world, and is probably going to be the first Western woman into space. Is that a safe prediction, looking into the stars, Jerry Cobb?
We hope so. I just wish that it wasn't necessary for you to add that Western woman into space now, but of course it is.
Jerry, when did you start lobbying to get women into the space program, or was it always a part of NASA's idea?
I think it's always been a part of their thinking that eventually we will put women in space. NASA's attitude was that there's just no hurry about it. Now that's their attitude. It's totally different from mine. I've been working on
50 years ago, there was another pilot with the same talents and the same passion that I have.
We could go ahead and do it.
I feel a very kindred spirit with her.
Impossible, preferably before Russia did. It's impossible now.
You took all of the same sorts of psychological and physical tests that the original astronauts did, and we know now, passed them all with flying colors. Why do you think then, with you available, passing all of the tests right and left and very quickly, that they didn't make an effort to get you up sooner than you may go?
Well, I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
By 1960, she had 7,000 flight hours and held 3 world aviation records. She was the best in the world. Not the female best, she was simply the best.
Maybe that says something about the state of thinking about women in the United States.
Living in space, on the edge of what humans are capable of, is the first time that I have felt truly at home. This is where I was born to be. I never considered and would never consider a different line of work. At the same time, I am keenly aware now how lucky I am to have had the opportunities I had when I had them, because Jerry was also born to be here. All of the talent, drive, passion, hard work, it really means nothing if you're born into a society that tells you cannot participate because of your gender, your race, your sexuality, your nationality, or your religion.
I just want to let y'all know we're back at nominal audio config, and Hunt still would like to talk to David when he has a second.
One of the significant things that I think about as this mission comes to a close is not that I am one of the first women to be able to do this, but that I am simply one of the first allowed to do so. And when I reflect on our society, I realize we are a stronger society when everyone has the opportunity to pursue their passion, to give their very best. T.S. Eliot has one of my favorite quotes about exploration, and that is that at the end of exploration, after we've done all our exploring, we will come back to the place that we started, and we will truly know the place for the first time. So as I come to the end of this mission, I have taken time to reflect on the unique perspective that it's given me. You know, that when we look back at Earth, we don't see borders, we just see land masses. We don't see differences, we see similarities. We feel above any nationality or any other group that we may identify with. We just feel so human when we are exploring the cosmos. When I come home, I'm looking forward to being able to use this new perspective in the way that I interact with people and in the way that I solve problems and look at problems.
Astronauts like to say, you know, of course we all yearn to visit space. I can tell you that if I was born in space, the yearning to visit Earth would be even bigger. The moon is a piece of rock. The sun is a ball of fire. Everything is dead but Earth.
Please check on the ground. Flatland clear, sir. Thank you very much for that.
So here we are, already starting to pack, returning to gravity. I expect it to be a bit difficult. We'll be all kind of weak, disoriented, no sense of balance, maybe a little bit nauseous from the new feeling of gravity again. We're gonna need help. People are gonna carry us, put us in a chair or lie us down, and it's gonna take several days, maybe several weeks before we become normal again. And in that period, where we relearn to live with gravity and we learn to orient ourselves, that's when we're very interesting for scientists. They're gonna want our blood, our urine, our sweat, a piece of this, a piece of that, just to study everything, every hormone, everything in our body, to see the effects of the absence of gravity for several months. What is a person who lives in space like? So for a few weeks, we're still interesting like that because the changes have not reverted yet. After a few weeks, when we're back to becoming normal people, then we're not so interesting anymore, and they set us free, and we can go on holiday finally.
Station on time. And go ahead, Nick. Good morning.
I have been on station officially now about 102 days. And it's started to feel normal.
Open the sampling kit bag, and there should be a trash bag in there.
Without gravity pulling down on the blood in the body, there's been a lot of pressure in the head. There's some adaptation to the higher levels of carbon dioxide that we have here on the space station compared to the ground. My spine has had a chance to elongate, and so I've grown about 2 inches since I've been here on station.
We have confirmed spacing is in place. That's 1.1.
Flying is one of those amazing parts of being up here. I find the little kid in me stepping outside every now and then, and as I'm zooming through a module, I find myself making noises like a 10-year-old would as they're flying down the sidewalk.
Good morning, Christina. You can begin your melty retreat activity. You will need to wait the full 90 minutes before you can start the plate insertion, and this will also move.
Before I became an astronaut, I worked in the Arctic and the Antarctic. I was running science experiments and doing maintenance upgrades for scientists and researchers that weren't able to be there.
Hey, Christina, please stand by on space rep 2. I'll be with you in just a minute.
At this point, I have been in space just over 3 months. I would say there's still a lot of mental adapting that's always going on. In any given week, my eyes see the same things, the same colors, same for smells, same for the things we taste, same for the things we touch. There aren't many differences to sort of pin those memories on, to anchor them with a different sensory input. There's nothing new that my eyes see until we might get a visiting vehicle up here, and then there might be some new items that I'm looking at. And I think that's one reason why a lot of astronauts, you'll hear them say the days blend together. Got some apples, David, if you want one. You want me to toss you one?
Yeah. I'll work your PPE.
You can just, here, I'll break it down. You can just put it in your mouth all at once. Ready? You think you can grab it? You want me to, here, I'll cut it smaller for you. You sure? It's kind of big.
My eraser against the block. 56%.
You ready?
Ready?
You got it. Ah!
All right, let's get to work. So first step is we're switching power to bat. I want you to stagger the throws.
I believe that humans will never stop looking past what we know. And I think if we did, you know, who does that make us if we stop wondering, if we stop being curious?
Good morning, Ann. How are you doing today? Doing well. How are you? We're ready to get this cleaned up for you. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Here on the International Space Station, every day, we are asking and answering scientific questions. And to me, science is just organized curiosity.
Good afternoon, Ann. This is JC back with you on 3. Your next step is going to be removing those covers of those clear ponds.
It's just a way for us to take these questions that we wonder like kids when we look out into the sky, and we put them to paper and we say, we are going to come up with a methodical way to answer this question.
To make it easier for the fellows, you might have to tape or clamp down those bellows. No response, just give me the heads up for the next step.
One of the really interesting things about the scientific method is that sometimes it opens more questions than it does answer the questions we already have. We use this as a proving ground for technologies for deep space exploration. For instance, one of the technologies that we're interested in is how to supplement astronauts' diets with more of the nutrients that we get on Earth, namely from leafy greens and other vegetables.
Just wanted to sign off with you for today. We'll be looking at your photos tomorrow. Thank you very much.
We would like you to transfer the broadcast into the protocol.
Station house for the lead and motor restart.
Station has to go for Nick and Lucian, and then let me give you the big picture of what we're about to do. So with one hand, you're going to push in so that the chamber well.
The day is so chaotic and we're all moving in so many different directions. We're all really just kind of working in parallel for the most part. Every day you're chasing the schedule, trying to get your job done and not make mistakes so that you can try to continue to whittle away at the mountain of work that you've got to get done over the course of however long the mission is.
Station has to go on Spacecraft 2 for Christina and Benji. We just wanted to give you guys a heads up that historically the plants have needed water approximately every 3 days. So if someone can check on them about that often, and then that should keep them healthy and happy and eventually ready for you to munch on them.
The plant we're growing and harvesting is called Mizuna. It's a leafy green, and it's supposed to be pretty spicy and yummy, so we're looking forward to that. So the variables we're looking at are whether or not there's any issues with microbial growth inside the units, the nutritional value of the plants, and in addition, some of the psychological benefits of having plants to tend and having something to look after and something that grows in space. So we do a lot of questionnaires to see how it affects both our mood and our outlook. Just pretty neat.
Christina, would you mind taking some more pictures for us? We appreciate that, and then you can wipe up with the driveway.
And just want to check, whenever we execute stuff on the UA to switch the power on.
I'm in the US lab in front of the combustion integrated rack, or the SIR as we call it. This is an experiment where we can study flames and combustion processes here in microgravity. Things don't burn in zero-G the way they burn on the ground. Research into combustion in space is important because it helps us to really understand the physics at a very, very minute level. That's useful to develop better engines, of course, but also fundamentally to understand plasma. Plasma being the way stars function. And with everything that we are learning about production and energy management, that will help to send people even further than the space station. Sending people to a station around the moon one day, and then sending people towards Mars. And everything we learn on the way, interestingly, will help us on the ground, of course.
On orbit, water is a really big deal for us. We try to recycle as much as we can, and the system we use for that is the water processing assembly. I'm doing part of a power cable install. I'm routing this cable behind everything that you see here, all of this stowage, all of the hardware. I'm gonna have to move that in order to put that cable behind here. Cable has a mind of its own. Even simple tasks like installing a new power cable up here can be pretty complicated when you start having to look at how to deconflict and share the space with so many other really amazing experiments.
Christina, it's good to be back with you. Looks like you got your hands full of some mighty good-looking plants there.
Many of these plants have multiple stem bases and sort of a primary one in the middle and then some smaller ones growing off of the side. In particular, number 3 has several, what looks like different bases of stems, and definitely 4 as well. I think they all do.
Did you get some photos of that, or could you?
Yep, it was hard to tell with all the leaves on top, but I think the best photo op for that will be once the stems are cut. So I'll be sure and take some pictures of the little nubs that are left and get in focus kind of where the secondary stems are coming out.
That'd be great, because we haven't really seen that before, so that's great.
I love the collaborative aspects of the job in that sense. The fact that while I may not be a PhD researcher, I get to be involved in amazing science for people that aren't able to join us up here.
Sorry to interrupt your work there. We wanted to verify with you and we were in there on the beam hardware storage activity earlier. There was a step in the procedure to basically check that the stones did not interfere with the airflow from the stuff.
You know, if we're not moving forward, we're moving backward. And this is the moving forward part of what we do as humanity. Together, we're exploring, and to me, that's an important reason why we even have a space station and a space program.
This is Christy. I'm covering for John today. Will you with you soon?
Okay.
Good evening, Expedition 59. Y'all rest up tonight? Yeah, I know y'all are well prepared. You're going to do awesome tomorrow. And that's all I have. Anything for us?
No, just thanks for a great day.
Those are both on and on off. Okay. We do a quick sound check. Just like move the volume down and see if they go ba-doop. Ba-doop. Alright, lights are moving stacks. Going to there.
It's 3 hours and 32 minutes until man begins the greatest adventure in his history. If all goes well, Apollo 11 astronauts, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins are to lift off from pad 39A out there on the voyage man always has dreamed about. So it is now, before they go, as their gleaming vehicle sits poised and peaceful out there, that there is time, if only briefly in this busy morning, think of those three men and the burdens and the hopes that they carry on behalf of all mankind.
And undoubtedly, it was great working with you guys. Thank you to all of you there for a period with DCA.
Our crew recently completed 3 spacewalks.
We look forward to seeing you on the ground.
I personally did 2 of those spacewalks. Those are experiences that I will never, ever forget and that I really hope to have again one day.
On the UAA, EMU 1 and 2, oxygen valves open. Okay, then both of you can switch power to...
I believe that human beings have a drive to go beyond what we know. And sometimes we have to do something purely for the reason of inspiration. Purely because nobody's ever done it before.
Power, EV 1 and 2, on the UAA.
Some people are driven by a curiosity to find out where we came from. Some people are mesmerized by the technology that must be built in order to propel us out of the atmosphere. Some people love picking up a rock that connects us to where our planets came from, what life forms could possibly be out there. And I think all of us have to be driven by a different passion in order to make all the different aspects of spaceflight work. I don't know if I'll ever get an opportunity like this again. None of us really knows what our space destiny is, and once we leave this incredible environment, we're not really sure if we're ever going to be back. Being an astronaut, to me, it means the culmination of a life of feeling like this is where I belonged. The first time that I told my mom I wanted to be an astronaut, I was 3 years old. And I remember my mom telling me from a young age when I was feeling discouraged, probably high school-ish age, and I was sharing with her some doubts that people had shared with me about this career path that I wanted. And she asked me, and she said, well, do they work for NASA? And I said, well, what are you talking about? No, they're like kids at my high school, teachers. And she said, well, if they don't work for NASA, I guess their opinion doesn't matter, does it? And her point was that I needed to keep going until the people that actually had that decision told me no. And so I did.
I think it's in the human nature to want to expand the sphere of our knowledge. The most important things will always be taking care of our children, making sure we are safe, we are fed, that everybody has equal chances in life. But with the little bit of energy we have left, we have to grow. We have to keep some reasonable fraction of our energy, of our resources, for blue sky dreaming, for the arts, for science, and for exploration. Because that is how civilization grows. That is how we progress as a species. And that's how we reach where we are now. Now I'm going back to something else. Going back to my family, going back to being a father and a husband and a son and a friend, going back to the humanity from which I come.
When Anne and David, when they started to get ready for departure, it seemed just like a normal day. We got up, we had breakfast. There were some things on my timeline that I had to do that weren't related with them leaving at all. Just experiments that I was shepherding. Life up here is going to be completely different. These are the people that have taught me how to live in space. They've taught me all the rules and tricks and tips and things that are going to make me successful and allow me to work on my own independently up here. They've taught us so much, and now they're going to leave.
You can imagine rotating this. All the way up there is the next time. So that's how you get there.
And we're going to step out on our own. And you want to do your absolute best. And this cycle has been going for 20 years. Crew handing over to crew, handing over to another crew.
We said goodbye to Anne, David, and Oleg, our crewmates from Expedition 59. It was in the Russian segment, a Friday night, which is our traditional place to have dinner together. I just tried to soak up the moment and remember these faces, remember my friends, remember this era. You know, the inside jokes, being able to pass each other our favorite foods across the table without even having to ask. You know, that same group of people won't ever be around that table again.
And then also for item 71.08 that you guys yesterday, that was the chair. Just wanted to let you know we are working on something else to backfill that.
Having your crew leave is such a big event, not only because we're losing our friend, and not only because the scenery changes, and not only because we're losing mentors, but we're also changing our roles. So now it's kind of like a changing of a guard and a changing of a generation. Rather than Nick and I having Anne and David around to, bounce questions off of when new stuff comes up, or sort of have them as our are de facto leaders in both in the technical ways and just knowing the history of different setups on station and why things are the way they are. Now we're the ones that are going to be setting the tone.
Coming up short on words to try to describe the connection.
I have a word for it. It's called humans. Just humans. And so big.
You're spectacular humans.
Humans.
Spectacular. Crap.
Yours, Yours.
You guys taught us.
We'll have other chances to hug. You guys rock.
You guys rock.
We're gonna make this space.
Maybe the rescue crew nominal descent and soft
Awesome.
I think Expedition 60 has begun.
You've been on space from one. Congratulations on advancing ahead of the International Space Station. We also congratulate you with 59 for excellent work, and we know that Exit 60 will be an incredibly successful mission.
6 of us.
Another large congratulations for a very successful mission. We wish you a safe trip home.
Now we only have 3 people on the station, and life has definitely changed. The pace of things up here still goes along very quickly, but it's more in solitude, and you start to realize just how big this space station really is when you can go chunks of the day and not see another human.
Station Houston on 6 ground 2 for any available crew members.
My focus is really on trying to prepare for the next crew to arrive, because when they show up, I know the activity is going to pick up. I think back to growing up on the farm in western Kansas, out in the middle of the plains. Everything I knew was within 10 square miles. And then I went to the Air Force Academy, and that experience expanded my boundaries. It expanded the sphere of knowledge that I have. And so coming up here, getting to the point where I feel comfortable living in space, has only broadened the realm of possible. And then you catch a sunrise that's 93 million miles away, and you can feel the heat on your face, and it lights up the moon, and the size of all of that, it just makes you understand your place. How small we are, how big the universe is, how important what we have on Earth is, and what we need to do to protect it.